Hey, what's up, everybody? Junior with TBT Media, and today we're going to talk about configuring your webcam to get the best quality possible if your webcam is able to be configured. You have cheap webcams that look like this, maybe similar, maybe not. Very cheap. This one's from Amazon, $35 straight from China. You also have this type of webcam, which is the Logitech Brio HD 4K, and you can configure the settings. However, when you turn on the webcam, it looks horrible. And there's a few things that we can change that'll make it look better and get the full ability out of this camera. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over some configurations to help you understand what certain things do within the configuration, so you can understand what you have to change and how to adjust it based in your scenario, your environment, whatever you want. So let's dive right into that. Here's a quick disclaimer on this. No matter how good of a camera you have, no matter what settings you put down on it, if you don't have the right lighting, it's really going to come short of what you really want it to do. So just keep that in mind. Study lighting, experiment with different types of lights, different type of angles, and you'll be surprised with how much lighting can make a difference. Like this, something minor and something that you think is not going to make big difference can make a big difference. But just remember that depending on your lens or the capability of the cameras, especially in low light scenarios, will depend on the type of lighting that you need. So just a quick food for thought. Let's get back to the video and see what we can do about these webcam settings. All right, we're in the Logitech Brio 4K HD. We're going to get into the settings and see what we can do about cleaning all this up. Let's get right to it. Okay, we're in the OBS, which I'm using Streamlabs, and whatever your camera's hooked up to, whatever video software, you should be able to configure it, but since I'm using Streamlabs, I'm going to show you through Streamlabs. So we go to the video source right here and we click the cogwheel all the way to the right. A window's going to pop up right here. Here, let me move it to the right so that way you can see it. A window's going to pop up and we're going to go to configure video. All right. And when we configure a video, the configuration menu should pop up like this. Okay. We're going to be touching base on 4 different types of settings, and I'm going to explain to you what each one does, so that way you can understand how to adjust it based on your environment. All right. So the lighting in this room did not change from the last camera I was using, but it looks a lot different because the lens and the camera, it's capturing everything differently. So let's see what we can do. I'm going to stick on a video proc amp first, and I am going to deselect everything that's auto here, and then I'm going to go to camera control on this other tab, and I'm going to deselect any auto here. All right, so I'm going to deselect focus. When I deselect exposure, the image is going to change. However, we're going to go ahead and adjust it to where we want it to be. All right, so it gets a little bit darker. So we're going to focus on exposure first. Exposure is basically setting how the camera is capturing the image and how much light is letting in. So the further left we go to exposure, the darker it's going to get because it's letting in the light a lot less because it's capturing the images faster. So the movement's going to be better. However, the image is going to be darker. So let's go a little bit darker here. And if you see, it's darker now, but it's capturing my movement really fast because the lens is capturing the images very quickly, but that means it's letting less light in. Now, if we went a little bit to the right, now it's letting a lot of light in, but as you can tell, I am kind of stuttery, laggy, but that's because the lens is staying open longer, which means it's capturing less image. What I'm going to do now is start adjusting to see how it's taking my movements to my liking. So I like -5. You can still see some of that blur, you know, the tracking of my hands. But when it comes to like making content like this, and when it comes to streaming, I'm not running and doing all those crazy things. I'm not making crazy fast movements. So this is all right. But I can go down to 6 and it's even better. So let's stick with 6 and we'll go from there. Now, after exposure, I am going to go over to the video proc amp and I'm now going to start messing with the gain. So the gain controls the lighting, but it also controls visual noise. The rule of thumb is you want to reduce the amount of gain so that way there's very little visual noise. However, there's got to be a balance because if I reduce the gain too much over to the left, I'm going to let very little light in and it's going to really look dark. So let's go all the way. So if you see here, very little visual noise. It's not grainy. It looks fairly clear. but as you can tell, it's dark. Even with all the lights on, it's dark. So I want to bring it up a bit and get it to where it's light enough, but there's still relatively little visual noise. From what I'm seeing, this looks good to me. Now, keep in mind that depending on your monitor and depending on the color settings there and depending on the quality of your monitor, the picture may not look the same to you as it will to the people viewing. So keep that in mind. The white balance is the next thing that I will touch base on. So the white balance deals with a color spectrum. So the more left we go, we're going to start getting to blue. The more right we go, we're going to get to like a reddish, darkish brown, orangish color. But when we sit about, between 42 to 56 Kelvin, depending on the lighting, I bounce between 45 to 56 Kelvin. And what I'll do is from my screen, I'll take a look at certain colors. So I'll take a look at my red light there, and I will see if it matches, if the screen matches. That's how I gauge it. Okay, from my lighting, we definitely got the color right. So sharpness. Now sharpness, it's a very, very touchy thing for me because sharpness, if you go too far to the right, you're going to get a lot of grain, a lot of sharp edges. Obviously, you're increasing the sharpness, but you're also increasing the sharpness to the visual noise around you as well. So but if you go all the way to the left, for this one, it seems a bit clear, but be careful with the sharpness because if you go too low and reduce the sharpness too much, you're going to become a bit blurry. So right now, this actually looks, to me, this looks fairly good. So let's blow up the image. So we still got some visual noise from what I'm seeing, but still looks fairly good. This is, to me, a good quality webcam. It's 99 bucks when I bought it a couple years ago. Let me try to adjust the gain a little bit more. Let me go down to 30 here. So now that I bumped up the gain, or I reduced the gain and I bumped up the exposure, so the gain is about 32 and the exposure is -5 instead of -6. I got good lighting. The color looks right. Everything looks pretty sweet. I like this. This is nice. And here you go. In the result of configuring, we can make our camera look like this instead of this. All right, so before you decide to just say my camera's not worth it, it's garbage, I bought a 1080p camera, it doesn't look like the advertisements, it doesn't look like the pictures that I've seen on the internet, it doesn't look like the pictures on the box, I'm going to throw it away. It could very well be just getting into the properties and configuring your video. Now, understanding what sharpness is, what gain, the white balance, and the exposure is, you can really turn this budgetary camera at $99 to a fairly good camera. But wait, there's one more thing we can do. All right, so check it out. There's a free software that you can use, and I'm pretty sure there's other softwares. However, I use one to help maximize the webcam even more. Now, I run an NVIDIA graphics card, and if you do run an NVIDIA graphics card, I believe it's a 10 series and higher, you can use the NVIDIA Broadcast. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I take already a decent image and turn it into something even better. So let's dive right into that. Okay, so I have NVIDIA Broadcast opened up and I have my camera sourced into NVIDIA Broadcast, and I have Streamlabs sourcing into the NVIDIA Broadcast system. So that way, whatever I do in the NVIDIA Broadcast is going to show up on Streamlabs. So let's dive right into this one. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, we talked about visual noise or video noise, quote unquote. The NVIDIA Broadcast software is a really good free software when you have the NVIDIA graphics card to help maximize things like your sound, your speakers, and your camera. I'm using the camera right now, and we're going to just really fine tune the video noise in just a click of a button. So if you go right here to effects, they do give you a bunch of options, but I chose the video noise removal and I select it. And what it does, it helps take away that graininess through the actual software from NVIDIA Broadcast. And NVIDIA came a long way with some of their quality, so I really like it. I clicked it to strong, and if you've noticed, it already cleaned up the video fairly well. And you can leave it as this if you want to show off some of your background and some of the details. Like for me, my guitar, my ukulele, my posters over here. my little flag over here, just stuff. If you want to go ahead and just show off a bit of your background, I think you're good. For a webcam, this is pretty solid. But there's another thing we can do: background blur. Now, when it comes to photography, when it comes to videography, bokeh is a big thing, and it really helps the object or the subject really pop out because it's blurring everything around it except the subject they're focusing on. So this is also known as background blur. So what you do is you'll go ahead and add another effect, and you'll select background blur. You'll click it, and as you can tell, the background is blurry. So what it helps with me is that it does give more contrast between the background and me, but it also reduces a lot of visual noise because now it's blurring everything out behind me. And I go to quality instead of performance. I'll click quality, and you can actually adjust it to where you can make the background blur even darker. Now, if you go too much, this is not, to me, I know right off the bat, you're not using a lens to do this. This is a software. So I like to keep it just a bit touchy in the back, and it looks pretty good. It looks comparable to the camera that I was using in the beginning of this video, which is a Sony a6000 with a 16mm 1.4 aperture Sigma lens. So for 99 bucks in comparison to the almost 1,000 that I spent on the camera in the beginning, I wish I knew this stuff, because I would have hung on to this camera and would have spent that money on something else, better lighting, an updated or upgrades to computers, something like that. Or I just put it in my savings account, maybe buy video games. I don't know, do some giveaways on streaming, or do giveaways on the YouTube, Discord. I have no idea. But all I know is that I have the knowledge now, and I would like to share it. Hey, so if you enjoyed this video and you find that this information was valuable, please like, subscribe, turn on the notifications. We're an upcoming channel, and we're dedicated to sharing all these tips and tricks to help content creators up their game. Also, we do podcasts that features content creators, and we talk about a whole bunch of stuff. So thank you so much if you've liked and subscribed. Thank you so much for viewing this video, and I'll see you next time.